All right. Okay, hold on. I got y'all in my vanity, so that's why you see a mirror. Okay, hold on, let's see. Okay, we got a pinned comment. We are in business. Yes, this is new to me. I feel like a grandma working this iPhone 11 and trying to work alive at the same time. Hey, y'all. All right, so I guess we'll wait just a few minutes to give people an opportunity to join. Hey, y'all, I'm Maj. I am host of Ask Maja podcast. That is my podcast about pop culture trends and music, movies, and TV that influence our relationships and our lifestyle. So I'm so excited. Hey, y'all. Hey, Ash. Oh, my gosh. Y'all, this is so exciting. I've never done this before. So I'm new to this, but we're going to have fun. Hey, y'all. Hey, Dre. Oh, my gosh. Thank y'all so much for joining. I'm so excited. Okay, 2 more minutes and then we'll get started. I got my notes ready. I hope everybody's having a great day. It's Wednesday, it's hump day. We are halfway through the week. That's exciting. Okay, so y'all, I have my phone turned sideways on my tripod. So if I turn my head to read a comment, don't judge me, okay? Because that's how I can read. Hey y'all, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. 1 more minute and then we'll get started. I'm so excited. I hope you all are excited. I'm just like reading the comments and looking at people joining. Hey y'all, thanks for joining. Okay, 7:35. Let's go ahead and get started. So again, hey y'all, thanks so much for joining. This is the Small Biz Takeover of DC Now Events Live. Shout out to Nels for giving me this opportunity. So excited to be here. And I love doing stuff like this. So I'm Maj. For those of you who don't know, I am the creator and the host of Ask Maja podcast, which is a podcast about pop culture trends in music, movies, and TV that influence our relationships and our lifestyles and our attitudes. Okay, so somebody said I am sideways. Okay, hold on, because we're gonna get this together. I might just have to set y'all up somewhere else. Okay, we're back. Hopefully I'm upright. My tripod is not doing me justice. I apologize for the difficulties, y'all. This is my first time, so this is a little different for me. But yes, so my name is Maja. I am the host of Ask Maja podcast that I launched in January 29th to be specific. The podcast explores pop culture trends and music, movies, and TV that influence our lifestyles, our relationships, and our attitudes. So during this quarantine, I've noticed that a lot of people have started launching podcasts. A lot of my friends have reached out to me. I've seen a few newer podcasts on Instagram. And so I thought it would be really cool and really helpful to talk a little bit about my journey and my experience launching my podcast, because I, like many other people, have no idea. I had no idea how this worked when I got started, but I knew this was something I really, really wanted to do. So just wanted to give you a few steps we'll go through, and please feel free to ask questions as I go along. Definitely want this to be a conversation. Okay, so first, you always want to start with research. That was one of the most important things for me to get started. Once I learned and decided that this is what I wanted to do, now it's about research. So think, how do I start a podcast? What equipment do I need? If you're doing this by yourself, so you need mics, you need a mic stand. You want to think about, your recording platform. People use Logic and Pro Tools, and some people even use Anchor to record their podcast. So it's something to research when you first get started. If you are using a producer, you want to research, obviously, the producer, what work they've done in the past, the quality of their work, their style. Okay, now the comments disappear. Okay, there we go. The style of their work, and how it kind of matches with your vision. So that's equipment. And then if you are working with a producer, you want to think about their style and their quality of work. Next is you really want to do market research. See what's out there. What podcasts are already out there and booming? What strategies are they using? How they got their start? Who's listening to podcasts? What are their ages? Where do they live? Why do they listen to the podcast? Is it for entertainment? Is it for education? Is it for comedy? Where do people listen to podcasts and when? Is it on their way to work? Is it while they're at home chilling? Is it before they go to bed? Is it while they're eating dinner with their family? Is it around their friends? And also think about like how people find podcasts. Is it, I just downloaded the Apple Podcast app and I just searched through. Was it a Facebook group that they joined? Was it a conversation with their friends and somebody heard about a podcast and then you kind of jumped onto the bandwagon? So it's always important to start with your market research, your podcast research, as it relates to how you plan to get started. So that's first. Do your podcast research on what you need to get started. Secondly, from this research, now we want to put this on paper. So you want to create a marketing strategy. And for the sake of this live, I'm going to assume that those who want to start a podcast, you already have, kind of a name, a description, a genre of your podcast. So, pop culture, comedy, film and TV, stuff like that. So with your marketing strategy, you want to use the research from your initial podcast research to build your brand, right? So this is how you're really going to shape your brand, and really nail down your podcast niche. So who are you talking to? Who do you want to target? What are the strategies and tactics you're going to use to target your audience? What do you want to do with your podcast? Why did you start this anyway? Why did you start the podcast anyway? Like I said, is it to entertain? Is it to educate? Is it to discuss politics and news? Is it to provide laughter? Is it for inspiration? So yes, once you do your initial research, then you want to put it on paper into your marketing strategy. And again, this is how you're going to really build and shape your brand, your podcast brand, and then nail down your podcast niche. All right, so number 3. Next, you want to choose your distribution method and networks that you want to join, that you want your podcast to be displayed on, or a streaming service, for a lack of better words. So this is important because a lot of people, and like me, I found out when I chose a distribution platform that it can take weeks to get your podcast approved to be distributed. So I regret not doing that first before I started creating content and recording. You really, really need to nail down your distribution network or your distribution method before creating content. So you have, your research, you have your strategy, and then you want to look for a distribution method. And of course, this is important because this is how you're going to reach your audience. So your marketing strategy comes into play with regard to you choosing your audience, your target audience in that specific niche. And then once you choose your audience, now you got to figure out where they are. And then you have to meet them where they are. So choosing your network or choosing your distribution method is going to be based on your audience. Based on your audience research. Me personally, I use Anchor, but I also outsource to a few other streaming services because Anchor doesn't distribute everywhere. And then when you think about a distribution method or distribution platform, you also want to think about what you want to get out of it. Are you looking for analytics? Are you looking for a a free distribution method, something that you don't necessarily have to pay for. You want to think about where, like I said, when it comes to audience research, you want to think about where this particular platform is distributing to, like what other services they're distributing to. So think about, it goes back to, your marketing strategy, where your audience is, what they listen to, how they're listening to it, and what streaming services they're on. And then you want to base your distribution method off of that research and off of your marketing strategy. So yes, also when you choose a distribution platform, it's okay to look at other networks. Now, I'm really big on quality over quantity. So it's not about how many networks you can get your podcast on. It's about where the people are. How many networks are going to reach the largest amount of people? How many networks are going to help you reach your intended audience? So it's good to do your research again on other networks and how they can benefit you and how you can reach your audience that way. So I'm a researcher. I'm always Googling different things. I'm always researching different platforms and networks that I think my podcast would be appropriate on, and my podcast, could reach a higher level audience. And also think about smaller podcast networks. So when you think about, your Apple Podcast, Pandora's, iHeartRadio, Spotify's, these platforms have thousands and thousands and thousands of podcasts on them, right? So your podcast is somewhere in the mix, and you're kind of hoping that people find it. So it's good to consider smaller, upcoming networks. So, for instance, I joined a smaller network called Podbreed Network. And what's good about this network is my podcast is one of 10 in one specific genre. So it's easier for people to find my podcast versus, on Apple Podcasts or iHeartRadio, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of other podcasts there, and people kind of have to sift through. So it's kind of a marketing competition of who can get the audience, and it's harder, obviously, when you have other more established platforms or podcasts that are already out there. So yes, again, I put this step before kind of content planning and creation because it's important to choose your distribution method, how you plan to reach your audience before you start truly creating content. And again, this is assuming that you kind of already have an idea of what you want your podcast to be about. So, your name, basically the basics, of your brand, the foundation of your brand, your name, your genre, description, so on and so forth. So our first step is do your podcast research on what you need to get started. Secondly, is to create a marketing strategy based on your initial podcast research. And then third is to choose your distribution method and networks that you'd like to join that are going to be best suited for your audience. Fourthly, this is the fun part. Fourth is content planning and creation. This is so fun. This is my favorite part about creating my podcast. So I don't know if you guys have heard my podcast, Ask Masha Podcast. I've gotten a lot of compliments on my intro, and I love my intro. That is my favorite part about my podcast is my intro. I just absolutely love it. So again, going back to content planning and creation, this is a time where you can create those fun things. This is the time where you lay out your scripts. This is the time where you lay out your formats. You pick your guests. You choose your topics. You create intros. You have music. You throw in clips. You have your particular segments. For instance, one of my segments on my podcast is called Maj Moment. And it's basically where I talk about an inspirational story, and I share some sort of inspiration that I took from that story. Another segment that I have is called What Y'all Mad About, and it's basically a hot topic about, something that everybody is kind of going in on. So I guess a good What Y'all Mad About topic today would be the new J. Cole song. So again, this is the part where you kind of add those things in. And content planning also comes with scheduling. So if you're doing this by yourself, you want to think about what days you're going to record, what days you're going to edit, what days you're going to publish, what days you're going to promote. And with me, I work with a producer. I have a producer for my podcast. So